I could just keep checking up on it.
Okay.
Okay. So let's maybe try and start off with a bit more structure. So what is the question we want to engage with?
So what did I start off with?
It was the creator assimilator stuff that we were talking about.
Well, so I guess more our societal view of what interior design is, what entire interior design will be, as well as the context that it is in now, the subjective versus the objective interior design, quote unquote, what that means.
Okay.
And
Are you gonna have basic definitions of what defines interior versus exterior, and what it means to design?
that's what I'm trying to do now. It's again very subjective.
Yeah.
It's what I say is it's a refraction rather of architecture. It's a refraction of the bottom of architecture.
Yeah.
It's below it, and I don't think that's true. It exists as its own
thing,
its own genre, and what I'm trying to do is find the objectivity in interior design.
You mean the objectivity of exterior? What you mean by the objectivity of interior design is the field in itself, rather the field in relation to like architecture, or rather.
No, the field. So right now, it's the field in relation to architecture.
Yeah. You want to find the field in itself.
Yes, the field in itself, and the field in relation to existence, rather.
Yeah.
And so, one question is a good question to start off with is why it was discovered so late in the game, in that sense, or why it was defined rather later in the game. Or was it, rather? Because I talked about this to somebody else, where cave drawings, right? Cave drawings, or caves in general, is technically architecture, but in a certain degree it's not, right? It's nature. But
not nature. Things drew that on purpose.
No. Caves is what I'm talking about.
Yes. I thought you were talking about cave drawings.
Yeah. So caves in itself is a space, right?
Yeah.
That people inhabited. Cavemen. What are those people called?
I don't know. Neanderthals.
Neanderthals.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess would be a better term.
I don't know. I would look that up. I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, Neolithic people.
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that.
And they created their own space within there. So would you say that interior design existed before architecture to that degree? It could have. You could make that debate. You could make that argument. But so in that sense, what kind of why did it exist? Why did people need to make space for themselves? Why does space exist? And why do we, as designers, interior designers, need to choreograph space?
Why do you need to?
Or why do we feel...
I mean, I wouldn't stick to something like, why do interior designers need to? That, I think, is very specific, and it is wrong, because... not wrong, it's just... It's overly specific, and I think a misguided thing. Interior designers don't need to... People need to design.
Right, fair enough.
Yeah.
So we get back into...
people need to?
We get back into the topic of whether or not... now that technology is allowing to, now that we have a collective data mind called the internet, the second world, or the second infinite world of creation, of data storage and collective intuition, emotion, all this stuff, or database rather, it's a intellectual database. What spawns from this? Now that people can create in space, 3D fabrication, for example, what roles do designers play, and what roles does society play as this creator? Now that does interior designers, or do designers in general?
Is society the creator or the constructor?
The constructor, rather, but they can also be the creator.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, interior designers are a part of society. But that's because your talk of society as being the creator. It's not society. It's one group of people being the creators and another group of people being the designers.
Right, but now society
constructors.
But society now allows for both the design, like society and technology currently in the early 21st century allows for people like you, right, a studied philosophy major, English major, who has no kind of background in design. You can go online and work within this kind of boundary, this kind of lens to create as well as fabricate instantly if you have a 3D printer or if you know
I mean,
have a chop saw.
I don't think this changed. I don't think the internet has changed the actual like anybody anywhere like that always happened. You had people who had invented stuff. Let me check. Yeah, I think so. Still, yeah, we're 5 minutes in. So you had people who were like, you know, invented something. Like somebody invented a tool or a way to do something.
Right.
And word got around town that they had this great way of farming.
Sorry.
And you know, people would maybe go and ask them, how do you do this, and they show them how to do it, and so
Right.
you had this like sharing of knowledge, and how that knowledge was shared and the relation people had to the knowledge has changed, but the actual beginning and end I don't think are so different. Somebody comes up with the idea, somebody hears about the idea
So
defines the idea, and then they construct it as well. Or
so are designers
first
the
place.
initial creators, the design makers? What did I say before the thing cut out? That was, I think, a really good definition. Fuck.
The designers.
You know what I'm talking about, though, right?
I want to. So when you're talking about the designers being the people who made the idea of it.
Yeah, the god complex in that sense, like
they were the gods.
We started talking about the whole the god.
Being a creator and
Yeah.
being like a godlike figure. Or something.
Yeah, which is very egotistical
I think
standard.
I mean the thing is I don't think it's just egotistical. I think it's a misanalogy. You create a thing, you don't have complete control over that thing.
But the perfect designer would have perfect control over it.
Okay.
Right.
That's fair.
Right?
Yeah.
As a good designer, you would have control
No,
over
as
every
the
aspect.
perfect designer.
As the perfect designer.
Which is
the
also
ideological designer, rather.
Yeah, yeah. The ideal.
Yeah.
Ideological means that they have ideas. They're like.
Well, it's the
Yeah,
projection of the future, and like the perfect
Yeah.
future.
Okay.
So ideological, right? It works.
I know what you're saying.
But so, what happens that is that true? We got into the conversation before that we have these different analogies and the exact definitions aren't correct. You know, you have to kind of really own the definition to really own it, which is a bad way of saying it. But
you mean in the sense of like this isn't we were talking about a bit about how this isn't a difference in the object or like the creator. It's just a difference in the terms, and we're using our terms vaguely. So in order to like cut out the world and understand it, we're kind of like
in order to deconstruct it.
Yeah. We need to form these concepts and segment it into parts, almost fictionally or artificially.
To a certain degree, yes.
I would say that's true. I think that is something people need to do, not just to design, but to understand.
Right.
Because even the distinction of P and not P, like chair and not chair, it's a distinction and it's a way of carving out the world, and it's one that's necessary in order to understand what I can like do X with and what I can't do X with.
Right.
Just like there's poisonous and not poisonous. That's an important distinction to have.
Right.
Conceptually, in fact.
So, reeling this back to design, how does that fit into that context then? Or what do you think is?
I mean, for one, we're making the distinction between the creator and the constructor.
Right.
That's one important distinction. We talked about how those don't need to be like the act of creating, the act of constructing, don't have a time order. You can create first, or you can construct first. You can do those both simultaneously, or you can do them in reverse. Though I do think there's certain practical and like physical limitations to doing it. You know, like I can't construct a house or a stable structure without thinking about it. It's very rare that will happen. Very rare.
Trial and error.
That's thinking about it.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's in the reverse order. Is what
yeah, it might be if you just kept throwing bricks together.
Right.
Then eventually you built a house. You know, like what they say about 1,000 monkeys and typewriters.
Yes.
Is eventually,
you'll have.
And that's in effect what evolution is. Evolution is a trend in that process.
So the fact that now we're evolving with technology, how does that affect design? Or rather, in my opinion, that affects design greatly in the sense that it questions the realities of design and designers in our current society and our roles in society. Should we exist or should we not exist? Will we exist in the future or will we not exist?
These are two different. I don't know if you want to say should or would. Like, would we exist?
Right.
Like, because should we exist? Yeah, there should be people trying to figure
yes,
out.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Sorry about that.
Oh, because you could do different things. You could be like, also there's like this weird like anybody could you do accept that anybody trained or not trained could be a designer.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
I would consider you a designer.
Okay.
Like,
Cool.
I would consider me as a designer.
Yeah.
But what makes me practiced as a designer versus you unpracticed as a designer? What makes that difference? And I think there is a slimming difference, which sorry, I'm saying that so often.
No. I was just thinking.
It informs what our future roles would be, and I think I'm trying to predict or at least use the past as a projection of the future, which you learn from history, right?
Yeah,
history repeats itself.
Yeah.
And the whole turtles on turtles thing works in that sense.
So, I mean, are you trying to say, okay, so right now at this point, we can say some people are designers and some people aren't as designers, but in the future, we might not be able to make that distinction.
Right.
Like, everybody is or isn't a designer. Or everybody is a designer, or everybody isn't a designer. There's no factual distinction. There might be a intellectual distinction or a conceptual distinction, but there's no person that is a designer.
Right. So right now, the designers of today, what will we become is my projection. And I think one of the things that will hold really forefront is that we'll be the boundary creators. We will be the rule makers in that sense. The politicians.
So you're accepting
unquote.
there will be a factual distinction of designer and not designer in the future. It will just mean different things.
Right. It will be the same now, but it will hold different roles.
Okay, I mean, I think there's a real question of whether you want to say, because I don't think you want to say that this distinction still holds. Then the difference between a designer now and a not designer now will not exist in the future. The terms designer and not designer will refer to different things, will mean different things, and will carve out reality a different way, or pick out maybe different aspects of reality. And so it's a different distinction. It's like saying, in the past, nice meant stupid. That's factual. You can check that out in the OED.
Right.
To be nice was to be called stupid.
Right.
Now to be nice is almost synonymous with kind.
Well, that's the whole evolution of words as well, and like.
No, I agree. So I'm
what's the
saying.
definition of